Leaving the vicinity of Cracus Mount, we are heading towards a place with a history stained by human tragedy. This place is the Płaszów concentration camp. The camp was located near the Jewish ghetto and the Płaszów railway station. It was built atop two Jewish cemeteries. The camp's internal road network was paved with Macewa's gravestones. When entering its area from the side of Jerozolimska Street, you will pass by Szary Dom, the Grey House, an SS torture site. The German oppressors tortured and killed camp inmates in the house's basement. Construction began with a group of the barracks built along an extension of Jerozolimska Street. As early as December 1942, the first batch of workers were kept in the unfinished barracks. The working conditions were dreadful. The only remains of the cemeteries are the ruins of a funeral home, which was blown up by the Nazis in the summer of 1944. The building played an important role in history. Valuables from Krakow synagogues were kept in a secret hiding place in the attic. Although the western wing where the hiding place was located survived the explosion, the priceless items were discovered by the Germans. Some of them were immediately destroyed, while others were transported to Germany. Amon Geth became the camp commander in 1943, an inhuman torturer who enjoyed killing off inmates by himself. There are recorded incidents of Geth sentencing entire work squad to die because they were found to have food from outside the camp. He often practiced his marksman skills by shooting his inmates from his car. It is estimated that he killed around 500 people. Over the course of his service, he amassed a huge fortune by robbing the camp inmates. The scale of this theft was immense. Even though such practices were informally permitted, Geth was arrested for this in 1944 and sent to prison by German authorities. He was pardoned soon thereafter because he was diabetic. On May 4, 1945, he was arrested by the American Army. Even though he used a false name, he was recognized by former inmates of the Płaszów camp. Amon Geth was handed over to Polish authorities who sentenced him to death. He was executed on September 13, 1946. His last words were "Heil Hitler." The camp was built in several stages. From June 1942, it functioned as a labor camp for Jews from the Krakow ghetto who worked in munition factories. A decision to transform it into a forced labor camp was made on November 27, 1942. At first, the camp housed only Jewish prisoners, although the situation changed in July 1943 when the SS and police commander for the Krakow area created a so-called correctional labor camp for Poles in Płaszów. The Płaszów camp was the second largest camp in Poland, right after Auschwitz. It is estimated that there had been 150,000 inmates in the camp over the years it was active. A vast majority of them died. Between 2,000 to 25,000 inmates imprisoned there at any given point in time. Camp liquidation began in the summer of 1944. Inmates were transported to extermination camps, buildings were demolished, and bodies of deceased were burned and buried. A small group of about 600 prisoners were left in the camp for the purpose of carrying out the work. Little remains of the former camp. The only ruins remaining are the old armory and the funeral home, while on the camp's grounds you can, however, notice the foundations of former barrack buildings or the gathering square. The camp was finally liberated by the Red Army on January 18, 1945. There are two mass execution sites located on the camp grounds. One of them is Chujowa Mound, a hilltop where a large grave was dug for the bodies of the murdered inmates. Between 6,000 and 10,000 camp inmates, as well as prisoners from the Montelupich prison, are believed to be buried there. In the summer of 1944, when the front line was pushing towards Krakow relentlessly, the Germans began to dig up graves, burn the bodies, and scatter the remains around the camp. The second execution site is Zipowy Pit. A monument to the victims of Nazi Germany stands in its place today. The back of the monument reads, "In memory of the people killed by Nazi murderers between 1943 and 1945. The monument is placed on the rampart of an old Austro-Hungarian fortification. It is one of the world's most famous monuments to the victims of World War II. Right next to Zipowy Pit is the inanimate nature reserve Bonarka. It holds over 5 acres of fossilized remains of sea creatures, ammonites, sponges, sea urchins, brachiopods, and many other interesting geological phenomena. When walking around the area of the nature reserve, you are actually crossing the bottom of a Jurassic Sea. The reserve has an educational trail, which I strongly recommend. When visiting the Płaszów camp, you can meet natives of Podgórze who still remember the days when the camp was active. The memory of these tragic events lives on in Podgórze until this very day. Despite the fact that there are few remaining camp structures, the empty spaces are as thought-provoking as Auschwitz.